Welcome to Foxtails Folklore, where we explore new stories and tell old tales. We are building a community through the ancient art of storytelling. We share our stories, and we hope to inspire you to stand up, sing out, to find your voice. Our stories shape our world. Your story can change the world. Join the chorus and fall in love with the world again and all of its possibilities.
I love water. It really is the source of life. Without water, there would be no life on this planet. Maybe we should call it water instead of earth. You are 3/4 water, and the earth is covered with about 3/4 water. And in this first story, we celebrate the water cycle. Let's follow Walter the water molecule around the world.
You know, every drop of water on the lake is like more than 3.5 billion years old. And the water keeps going round and round. So where did that water come from? And where would it go when I'm done with it? As I thought these thoughts, that little drop of water told me this story. A story that begins way down at the bottom of the ocean. Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine that you are there at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. It's dark down there, that's why I want you to close your eyes. Water to the left, water to the right, water up above, water down below. You can open your eyes. Maybe a glow-in-the-dark fish comes by, that's kind of cool. But not much happens down the depths of the ocean. More than a mile below the surface, the sun's light cannot even shine that deep. Maybe up above, there's a great blue whale. Well, down in the bottom, this little drop of water, we'll call him Walter, you could call him Wendy if you like. This little drop of water slept a lot, it was dark. And when it woke up, it could never remember its dreams. You know, you dream every night. And actually, the water molecules in your brain might be part of that. And when you wake up, do you always remember your dreams? You dream 4 or 5 times every night. Well, in the drop of water, Walter woke up. He didn't always remember, but he knew what he dreamed about. Because he had one wish, one dream, one desire, and that was adventure. And little did he know his adventure was about to begin. Because up on the surface, there was a great whale. This was actually a sperm whale, a toothed whale. They eat huge creatures, and they will dive a mile down. The whale took a great big deep breath. Take a big deep breath. How long can you hold yours? The whale can hold his breath for more than an hour. It swam down deeper and deeper. Now, in the depths of the ocean, the whale cannot see where it's going. So how do they find its way? By sound. They sing. Can you do the whale song? And they listen for the echo. It's echolocation. And they can tell from the shape of the sound what is around them. Now, most whales, like blue whales, they eat tiny little things called krill. If you cup your hands together, you could hold 1,000 krill. I know it's redundant, but a shrimpy shrimp, that's what a krill is, 1,000 in one scoop. But the toothed whale, the sperm whale, they love the huge, multi-tentacled nautilus, or even bigger. The giant squid is their favorite food. Well, the whale was singing one more time, and that song went out and it bounced back, and they heard something long. More than 8 arms, so it wasn't an octopus, it was a giant squid. And the whale started chasing the squid. The squid squirted black ink into the water, so the whale couldn't see him. Whale didn't have to see him. The whale could hear him. Jump, jump, jump. The whale caught the squid. The squid wrapped his tentacles around, and they were wrestling and fighting. And guess what? Walter, the drop of water, was caught. Jump, jump, jump. When the whale swallowed the squid, Walter went inside the whale. His adventure was beginning. Now that whale had been underwater for nearly an hour. When it came to the surface, you know how whales breathe out of that hole in the top of their head? You know, you breathe out of holes in your head, but they're on the front. Have you ever seen your breath on a cold morning? What you see is actually droplets of water, invisible. Vapor. It condenses and makes a cloud. So next time on a cold morning when you see your breath, you can tell all your friends, I am cloud maker. And it's true. Well, as this whale breathed out, psh, little droplets of water came out. Walter came out of the whale and splash, he landed on the surface of the ocean. He went whoop one side of the wave and down another, whoop and down again and again. But when he came to the crest of the next wave, he saw little droplets of water leaping into the air. He was wondering where they're going. Only one way to find out. He went from the crest to the trough to the crest, and he leapt into the air. Can you say evaporation? And he started floating. Higher and higher, higher and higher. Now, a moment ago, he was a mile under the ocean. A few moments later, he was a mile above. He moved 2 vertical miles in a matter of moments. And he entered a river. Yeah, a river of air called the jet stream. And he circled the globe. From the Pacific Ocean, he went over North America. That's where you and I live. He went over the United States of America. He went over the Atlantic Ocean, over England and Europe and the former Soviet Union. Had to change that part of the story recently. And back over the Pacific Ocean. He circled the globe several times before he came over Canada. And he came into a cold front. Now, as you may know, cold things sink, warm things rise. When you boil water, where's the steam go? Yeah, but he wasn't hot steam coming up off the Gulf. He was cold, moist air coming down out of Canada. Not only did he move south towards the equator, but he moved down closer to the surface of the earth. Just then, there was warm, moist air rising up from the Gulf. And as this warm, moist air met this cold air, they do a little dance. La cucaracha, la cucaracha. And if you're outside on just the right day, you will see huge clouds begin to gather. Walter realized he wasn't alone. A little drop of water stuck to his side, zoop, and one stuck to the other side, zoop, and one stuck to his front, zoop, and one stuck to his back, zoop. Can you say condensation? When the droplets come together, they make a cloud. And think about it. A cloud is actually a lake floating in the air. Well then, Walter passed the dew point. You see, this was no ordinary cloud. This was a cumulonimbus, a big thunderstorm, bolts of lightning. And actually, because of that updraft and that downdraft and those fronts coming together, the cold front and the warm front, pushing, they began to spin. My favorite kind of cloud. Can you say mesocyclonic? Take it apart. Meso meaning middle, cyclone, yes. You see where we're heading here? Walter was part of a tornado. Now this cold air falling was so cold, he actually froze into a tiny little pellet of sleet. But then the warm air blew him right back up, and more moisture stuck to him, and he became a little ball of hail. And he started to fall. Wah! He passed the dew point. But that warm air blew him back up. He met more moisture coming down, and he became a bigger ball of hail. Wah! But as he was falling, another gust of air blew him back up, and more moisture stuck, and he became a golf ball size ball of hail. Now, next time you're out in a hailstorm, get out of the hail. But scoop up a ball. And with a really sharp knife, maybe with your parents' help, you can cut it in half. And kind of like counting rings in a tree, you can actually see the rings and count how many times it went back up and down again. Walter, he began to fall. Wah! Ding! He hit the hood of your mom's new car. Oh, no. And because the engine was warm and the car had been sitting in the sun before the storm came, Walter began to melt. And just like that, he went from being invisible vapor, a gas, to being a liquid, to being a solid, to being a liquid again. And then he evaporated and became a vapor again. He was all 3 states of matter within a matter of moments. But actually, he didn't evaporate right away. He went back down the hood of the car and onto the ground. Now, because of the thunderstorm, he was washed down into the lake. And as he came into the lake, there was a huge catfish. And again, as you and I breathe air, catfish breathe water. He went over the gills of that fish. Think about water. The chemical makeup, H2O. So it's 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Actually, because it's a volatile molecule, it'll often attach itself or attract extra oxygen so that the fish can extract oxygen from that H2O, and fish breathe water the same way that you breathe air, and you remove the carbon and release the carbon. Well, he went over the gill a couple of times, but even though fish live underwater, they get thirsty, and the fish actually, I'm empty, drank that water. And he went inside the fish's belly, and inside the fish's blood streams. You have streams and rivers inside of you. And into the fish's heart. And from the heart, he went through the fish's bladder, the place where they filter water. And I'm going to skip what happens next. In good taste, but you can fill in the blank. If I just say the fish swam away and Walter was left behind, you can guess what happened in the middle there. And he went back out into the lake. Now there on the shore of the lake, there's a huge sycamore tree. And the sycamore tree drank Walter up. And he went from the root to the trunk, to the branch, to the leaf. And when he got inside the leaf, he saw these tiny little holes in the bottom of the leaf called stomata. That's where a tree breathes. You actually have tiny little holes in you, and you're breathing right now. And trees perspire the same way that you do. And it's actually that action of perspiring moisture that allows a tree to draw minerals up from the root. And Walter realized when he got to the leaf, he had a little chunk of iron on his back, because the leaf said, hey, I'll give you some sugar for that iron. Would you rather have sugar or iron? Well, they're both necessary for growth. But he made the trade. And then he took the sugar that the leaf had made through photosynthesis back down to the root, and he traded that sugar for some calcium. And he went back and forth, part of the transportation system. My favorite word, can you say evapotranspiration? Take that one apart. Evapotranspiration. You recognize parts of it? So like transportation, evaporation is how a tree moves things. And Walter went out of the leaf and into the air again. And he floated around, but that night it got kind of cold. Actually, last night was not very cold, but it did pass the dew point. And so Walter condensed on a little leaf of grass. And he trickled down that leaf, and he went underground. And he went into the aquifer. Hold on, right here, wherever you are, underground are rivers and lakes. He entered the river under your house. And you at Woodhaven Lakes, I know, you drink well water, so do I in Bishop Hill. It's an underground lake. And that pipe, like a straw, drinks up the water. And just then, a little girl was going outside to play, and she turned on the faucet, and Walter went into her glass. And as she drank, Walter went into her belly and her bloodstreams. From the heart to the lungs, lungs to the heart, heart to the body, body to the heart, heart to the lungs, lungs to the heart, heart to the body, body to the heart, heart to the lungs, lungs to the heart, heart to the body, back and forth. And if you think about it, that's how the blood flows in you. But just then, this girl, I told you, was outside playing. And she was playing her favorite game with her friends, tag. Ha, you're it. Oh, you got me, freeze tag. But because she was running around, because it was a hot day, whoo, she was sweating. Ew. You know, if you had a really powerful magnifying glass right now, look very closely at your skin, you're full of holes. And Walter came out of that little girl and went up into the air. Can you say evapotranspiration? Fancy word for tree sweat. You are sweating right now. I can tell. You're kind of shiny there on a day like today. And Walter came out of the girl and back up into the air and into another cloud and off to another adventure. And the truth is, Walter's still out there. So maybe this afternoon, while you're fishing on the lake, while you're drinking some ice-cold lemonade, Walter might be in that cube of ice. Walter might be in that fish or that frog. That we are part of these never-ending cycles. Be it the food web or the water cycle, you and I are tied together in these infinite ways. Thank you. Thank you for listening. And my motto, a song for every story, but if not, I make one up. This is actually an old traditional American Indian song. I learned this one from Tawe Pueblo. Gray Antelope and Gray Rabbit, two friends and friends of mine, taught me this. We all come from the mother, unto her we shall return like a drop of water flowing to the ocean. Rain and corn, all that live shall be reborn. Oh. We all come from the water. Water flows through us and out into the world. Where does your water come from? I love those basic terms: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. You can use those 4 words to write your own story. You can actually do that as a visual. Draw your favorite cloud, and then maybe draw some rain or some snow, and then draw a pond or a stream, and you are a body of water. So what are the various collection points? It could be a tree. It could be your favorite fish or frog or a whale. And then how does it get out of that body of water to evaporate back into a cloud? You could actually do this with a series of pictures that go around and around and make your own story. It's also a lot of fun to gather with a few friends, and maybe you can watch my little video here and then hit the pause button and you take turns passing it around. So one of you begins a story about Walter, and maybe instead of a catfish, this time he goes into a largemouth bass. And then you stop wherever you want and you say, and then you hand it off to your friend. And your friend will say, and then the bass swam away, and when it splashed up, a splash of water went up into the air, evaporation. And then this time, though, instead of a cumulonimbus cloud, it was one of those high cirrus clouds that sailed over North America. And then your friend follows it from there. This high cirrus cloud, because it was so high, froze, and Walter turned into a little snowflake and fell on a farmer's field in Iowa. And then your next friend takes it, and you can just take turns passing it around verbally as a storytelling game. You can also do this on paper. With 4 sheets of paper and 4 friends, you start the story, and then at the clang of a bell or the bang of a drum, hand it to your neighbor. As your neighbor hands you their piece, you read what he or she wrote, add to it, hand it to the next person. And if you pass these 4 papers around, then you have 4 variations on the story of Walter the water molecule. It's a lot of fun. But let me ask, where does your water come from? Where does it go when you're done with it? As I mentioned in this next story, we're real fortunate in the Midwest to get 30 or 40 inches of rain. How much rain do you get in your neighborhood? Could you imagine living in the desert like my friends, Frog and Locust? This is a traditional Pueblo story I learned from Joe Hayes. Frog and Locust make it rain. Many long years ago, there was a summer where no rain came. And where there used to be a river, it dried up. And all that was left was a little puddle. And in that little puddle lived a little frog. And he thought, if it doesn't rain soon, my puddle's gonna dry up. And if my puddle dries up, I'll dry up too. And he really didn't like that idea. But then he thought, maybe if I sing, the rain gods who live in the mountains, they will hear my song and they will make it rain. And so he began to sing, rain, 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 rain. But his little voice wasn't loud enough. It did not reach to the top of the mountains. The rain gods did not hear him, and they did not make it rain. Well, near where there used to be a stream, there was a small bush. And this bush, because it had no rain, began to wilt and turn brown. And living in that bush was a little locust. And this little locust thought, if it doesn't rain soon, my bush is going to die. And if my bush dies, I'm going to die too. And the little locust, she didn't like that idea. But then she thought, maybe if I sing, the rain gods who live in the mountains, they will hear my song and they will make it rain. And so she began to sing, rain, 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 rain. And her little voice wasn't loud enough. The rain gods did not hear her, and they did not make it rain. So she began to cry, wah, wah, wah. Now the frog, he heard that crying, and he hopped over and says, what are you crying for? And she said, if it doesn't rain soon, my bush is going to die. And if my bush dies, then I'm going to die too. Wah, wah. Now you might think that's kind of funny, but the frog did not. He began to cry. Wah! At the same time she was crying. Wah! 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 Now, Locust stopped and said, sometimes crying helps, makes you feel a little better, but sometimes it's just whining. Maybe, she said, maybe if we put our two voices together, we'll be loud enough, and the rain gods will hear us, and they will make it rain. Well, the frog kind of liked that idea, so he began to sing. Can you sing like a frog? Sing it with me. Rain, rain, rain. And the locust began to sing. Can you sing like a locust? Rain, 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 rain. Now, can half of you sing like frogs and half of you sing like locusts? Rain, 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 rain. But their two voices were too small. You thought it was going to work, didn't you? They did not reach the top of the mountains. The rain gods did not hear them, and they did not make it rain. But don't give up. Other frogs and other puddles, they heard, and they began to sing. And other locusts and other bushes, they heard, and they began to sing. Can we sing all together, louder and louder? Rain, 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 rain. And soon they were too loud. Their voices reached the top of the mountains. Do what I do after I point at you. First, can you rub your hands together? Go ahead. And the wind began to blow. And then can you snap your fingers? If not, the rain began to fall. Can you clap your hands? Bigger raindrops and bigger raindrops, thunder and lightning, and it rained and poured for 40 days and 40... Oh, wrong story. It rained so hard for so long that the river began to flood, and the frog, he liked that very much. It rained so hard for so long that the bush burst forward with new leaves, and the locust, she liked that very much. And ever since that time, the people have learned, if you're working in your garden and your corn begins to wilt, your beans and squash are turning brown, don't go off by yourself and pray, but all together, with one heart and one song, with one voice. If we lift our voices together, the rain gods will always hear our prayers. Thank you for listening. And one of my mottos, there's a song for every story. If not, I make one up. But this is a traditional song I learned from Amelie, a Shawnee storyteller and friend of mine. I'll sing it through, and then you can join in the second time if you like. We all come from the mother, unto her we shall return like a drop of water flowing to the ocean. Rain and corn, rain and corn, all that live shall be reborn. We all come from the mother, unto her we shall return like a drop of water flowing to the ocean. Rain and corn, rain and corn, all that live shall be reborn. Hoof and horn, all that live shall be reborn. Human form, all that live shall be reborn. Oh, matakuyasin. All of the stories that you hear on this program you can find at your local library in a book. Many of them are in one of my books, the Fox Tales Folklore series, but maybe there's a great book that you have found, a wonderful folk tale from your culture, from your ancestors, that you could learn and you could tell. And you could send us a link, because I would love to include you on the program. We also know that readers are leaders, and the more you read, the more you know. Open your mind and ignite your imagination with a great story from a great book. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fox Tales Folklore. Next time, invite your friends. And maybe you can send us a link to you telling one of your favorite folk tales, and we'll use it on an upcoming episode. Join our choir to fall in love with the world and all of its possibilities.
that homework is quote homework, and my homeroom is literally in my home, school takes on a special meaning. Mom and I make sure I have a decent space and that all electronics are cut off during class. I keep the same hours for study time and I have a daily schedule. I only use my laptop for schoolwork, no video games. If I do go outside during or after school, I wear a mask and keep my distance. My friends and I realize we have to be safe. This is a global pandemic after all, and we want to do our part to fight it. If I feel a little lonely, I can reach out and talk to my counselor.
It's okay to open up.
And at the end of the day, I keep my same sleep schedule. Keeping my space, cutting off electronics, honoring the hours, only using my laptop for schoolwork, talking to my counselor for support. Nowadays, that's what school means to me.